Real news. Honest and fun political talk weekly on the Line 90.7 FM. So we'll start off talking about a few topics right now before we get into Jacob Wohl, because he's going to call in a few minutes. But let's start off with talking about the big just transformation, the independence that was finally, just taken hold of last night at 11 p.m. in Britain. Britain finally left the European Union. Britain has achieved its independence from the EU and is now going to be transitioning to a new phase. This is probably one of the biggest political changes of the modern Britain. I mean, I'm trying to think of anything else bigger that's happened, but this is a huge deal. There's a video of the flag being taken down from the European Union building, and it's a glorious sight for those who love Brexit, but a tearful sight for those who voted Remain. What do you guys think of this special occasion in British history?
I don't like how you use the term transition for Britain. You made it sound like it turned its sausage into a spatula, and now it's wearing a wig and it's going by the name of like Caitlin.
Call me Brexit.
Yeah, no, but I mean, in general, I think that's a good thing for England. I think it was stupid for them to ever enter into this union. Although, they kind of changed the definition of that union several times throughout its history. It used to just be a monetary thing, and now, they're building an army. So that kind of seems a little bit out of place for it. But, good on Britain.
Yeah. I think
hopefully that's good news for 2020 over here.
Well, that's the thing that should be interesting to see how that has ripples effect here, because we saw that kind of with Brexit. They had a big vote and they voted to leave the European Union by a pretty healthy margin. And then you're seeing, you saw Trump win in here. Now with the big conservative victory in Britain, it's be interesting to see how that ripples over to America. I mean, it's amazing. They voted for that 4 years ago. It took it 4 years to finally happen, all because you had a bunch of people in the British Parliament trying to stop it, the EU trying to stop it, Theresa May didn't want it to happen. And I mean, regardless of how you feel about Brexit, at the end of the day, people voted for it, it won, and it should happen. I mean, if you don't have that, you really don't have a democracy or a republic or anything. Your votes don't matter if that's the case.
I mean, these are the same people that would probably complain about, like, hey, Trump's not my president if they were in America. So it's not really surprising. They just want to live in this la-la land where after something is done, they just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, they always do that.
It just seems like, I don't know if it's liberals in general or, like, what's going on, but they've just been living in this, like, parallel dimension to what the real people of the world have been living in. It seems for the past, 4 years... Probably before then too, but they were the ones in charge back then, so I guess it was a little bit different.
Yeah, I feel like it's I feel like the EU is a sinking ship anyway. It's just like a whole. It's nothing but a huge financial mess. You have a whole bunch of countries failing, and basically Germany's keeping them afloat. Why stay in something that really is taking advantage of you? Because it's like, what do they gain? Britain's really not gaining anything by staying in the EU. So it's like, just leave. Yeah,
it's like, if you had like a terrible girlfriend or something, and then, you're just kind of staying with her to stay with her. And they were just like, hey, you're doing nothing to me. You're not paying any rent. You're, eating all my food. You don't even cook. What's going on over here?
back to the girlfriend analogies again.
Yeah, I mean, that just kind of seems like the whole, not Brexit, but just like the EU situation.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
It's like a bad girlfriend.
Yeah, and it's something that, like, I remember, I don't know if you guys saw my Facebook, but somebody we know said that, a lot of young people didn't vote. This is going to screw over young people. And I'm like, well, first of all, young people just don't vote in general. Second of all, young people vote for Jeremy Corbyn in Britain, and Jeremy Corbyn's an idiot and a socialist, in my opinion. And if you're your population is mostly adults, not young people, And that's how it works. Whoever gets the most votes wins, and hopefully it represents most interest that way, and it did. But I don't see how it screws over young people at all.
Well, I mean, we're facing, like, even in this country, we're facing a battle with socialism. I mean, the Democratic Party here, much like in Britain, they're socialists. They're trying to breed socialism, and they're trying to do it by any means necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not about that. I mean, this gives us hope. The whole Brexit thing gives us hope that we need to just keep fighting. Because I thought for a while, I thought that England was a lost cause. Like, I thought they were a lost cause. I thought that that this Brexit deal would never happen. Like, I honestly thought it would never happen. I thought they would be it would be stuck in limbo for decades,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe die off eventually. But no, I like today, or this week has been a thrilling week for me. Like, to see, I'm like, oh wow, they actually did it. Like, it gives me some sort of, like, I don't want to say hope, because that's like
Optimism.
Optimism. Yeah. Like, especially with 2020 rolling around, and
Yeah.
I think, I'm hoping that good things are coming.
I think what's also funny is that on the same day Brexit was happening, you had the Trump impeachment falling apart. The last nail was put into the coffin where Murkowski voted no on letting more witnesses in. So you had two, like, it would have been funny if they acquitted him on Friday too. Like, that would have just been so glorious to have Brexit happen, Trump acquitted same day. It was just, beautiful if that would have happened. But oh well, still happened anyway. But we had Brexit just won beautifully that night. They have officially left, and then that vote happened, and that even people on the left were already realizing that impeachment's over now. They're going to quit him now. They're going to move the vote in the Senate to whether to acquit him or not. So he's going to be probably acquitted next week is my guess. They're saying it's going to be like Tuesday or Wednesday. So Trump will be free from that finally. And now the Democrats are going to have an interesting position in 2020, because all these people that were crying for impeachment didn't get it. So how are they going to frame things now? That, to me, is what's going to be interesting. And we'll ask Jacob about that.
Yeah, I think I mean, if the people that wanted it and the people that were pushing it probably have a constituent base that's probably dumb and wanted, like, we're crying for it, and so they're probably just doing whatever they're doing, and they're not going to be affected.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I am a little curious to see some of these people that voted for this, for the witnesses and for impeachment and all that, in the districts that, like, Trump won in, and wondering how that's going to play out, because this, like, for Republicans, this is not very, obviously it's not very popular, and now you have to go back into your district. Like,
well, I think it's going to anger some of these people, because I'm like, okay, you spent all this time, all this money on impeachment, and what did you do? What's been accomplished? And they're going to probably say, oh, we passed the USMCA trade deal. It's like, I don't know how well they're going to be able to sell that, because that was Trump's trade deal. They made some tweaks to it and act like they improved it. And I don't think people are going to buy that. I don't think they're going to go, oh, yeah, the Democrats, they passed that trade deal, though, guys. I mean, it was clearly a political move because they've been holding it up in the House for a long time. They could have voted on it a long time ago, but they held it up for this, which means they're probably planning impeachment for the while, and they wanted to either take Trump's weapon and use it against them, basically, or they were trying to make it their own cover up for the impeachment if it goes bust, which it did. So they're in a bad spot, and I think 2020 is now going to be down to Biden, Bernie, and Pocahontas. I think those are the only three players that are seriously left in the field. And
I'm not. I refuse to count out Mike Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot Bloomberg.
I refuse to count him out.
Well, you need to see. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Maybe we can talk about it now. He has released two of the cringiest political videos I think I've ever seen. We can play one of them, I think, now. One of them's a political ad, so I'm not sure we can play it. But the one in the political ad, well, first there's this video of him. He sees a dog, and instead of petting it, he literally, shakes its jaw. Like, he grabs the dog, and wraps his hand around, its face, and starts, shaking it. I'm like, he's freaking abusing that dog. Who does that? What normal human does that? And then he released... Yeah?
I could see Biden doing something like that. Like, he puts fingers in that girl's mouth, stuff like that.
I was gonna... Well, I would say a dog is a wrong species for him. But
no, Biden would go behind the dog and smell it.
Yeah.
It smells butt.
Yeah, so you had that, and then Bloomberg releases this ad, and I'm not kidding you. I'm not making this up. This is real. You can see it on his Twitter, of a bunch of dogs saying, "I like Mike Bloomberg. I'm voting for Mike Bloomberg." And it's all these dogs. And I'm like, wait, does he think dogs can vote for him now? Does he think he has the dog vote? And at the end of it, there's a dog that goes, "I'm Mike Bloomberg's dog, and I approve this message." And then it shows
I wouldn't count it out of the Democrats to register dogs to vote.
Yeah,
they've already registered dead people, so
they're already letting dead people and illegal immigrants vote. So I mean, why not pets, right?
Yeah, throw them in there, and
yeah.
And then he releases this video, and it's literally him saying he has a thing of let me see if I can find it. It's just absolutely cringe. I don't even know what it was, if it was an ad or an endorsement or what it was, but I'll play it for our audience because it's something to behold. It's actually real. It's on his Twitter. You can still check it out. Still hasn't been taken down. So here is what Mike Bloomberg thinks is going to win him the 2020 election.
Where's my ice cream? Ah, thank you. Big gay ice cream is the best.
What was that?
What is the point of that? Big gay ice cream. What is that?
I don't know. This is
maybe it's trying to be a meme. Honestly, maybe that's how he thinks. These millennials, they like memes. Let's be like millennials.
Yeah, I'm gonna be hip with the kids.
Meme-worthy content.
It was
he's
so
out of
bad.
touch with what he thinks people wants. I don't know. Do you see what's going on with him and the super delegates now?
What's that?
Apparently they're undoing the stuff they said that they would do at when Bernie's lost last time. And now they're allowing super delegates to vote on the first try. The DNC's trying to get past that. Even Tulsi Gabbard was tweeting about that.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. They're already trying to rig it against Bernie. And I'm telling you, Mike Bloomberg is trying to be a forced meme, and it's just a failure. You don't go around in any political ad saying what he just said. It just makes you look goofy and silly. And that's nothing against gay people or anything like that, but just saying that makes you sound goofy. I like big gay ice cream is the best. It just sounds goofy. I mean,
Trump is going to eat him alive if he somehow gets a nomination. Just a stupid dog thing, the big gay ice cream. He's going to eat him alive, and there's nothing he's really going to be able to do against it because he literally is the Democrat version of Trump.
So, without further ado, our guest tonight is a conservative writer, speaker, and political operative. He's also a journalist who has been banned from Twitter and is a self-proclaimed, and I'm quoting this, #1 MAGA e-thought, Jacob Wohl. Welcome to the show.
Well, hey there. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So I started looking into you back in like 2016 when the election was going on with Trump and all these things. And I noticed that you were originally a very, very young hedge fund guy. You were actually the youngest guy to start a hedge fund. And I'm just curious, how did you go from being the youngest guy, start a hedge fund, to now involved with politics and calling yourself the #1 MAGA e-thought? What happened along the way?
Well, what happened was actually kind of interesting. Vice Media came out to do a documentary about my hedge fund. They came to my compound in the Hollywood Hills to sort of film this documentary. And of course, it was around election season. So among other things, they asked me, who did I think would win the election? And I said, Trump's going to win. And I had posted at the time a map, on my Instagram and elsewhere. That was sort of my prediction, state by state. And it was almost exactly correct down to the point. Now, they had intended that they were going to sort of make fun of me. But there were some delays in their production. They didn't end up getting the documentary out until after the election. And of course, they had to eat their words. They came back out and filmed some more. But really, my predicting Trump's victory and supporting it very early on. I was a regular. People forget this. I was a regular on CNN and HLN in the early days of the 2016 election. And I was the millennial Trump supporter, one of the earliest Trump supporters. And so, being sort of on record with all this stuff and then ending up being correct in what people viewed as a long shot was how I sort of launched from finance straight into politics more quickly than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I saw that too, that when you posted the map of the election, like you were like almost dead on. It was probably the most accurate predictions of the whole election. So with that said, though, and that's very impressive, obviously it's a little early right now, but where do you see 2020 going? Like, what's your prediction so far with that?
Well, I think 2020 is going to be close. A lot of Trump supporters have a perception that this is going to be some kind of a landslide. And I don't see that in the cards. For one thing, and I think this is the biggest subplot that nobody's talking about, is you have this situation where many of these swing states, Trump won by slim margins in various precincts. And many of the people that voted for Trump in that election have died. They've passed away since then. How many? Well, we don't know exactly, but the number ranges into the tens of thousands. They're older folks, and they've died of natural causes over the years. That's going to be the sub-story that I think defines the election, is whether or not young voters coming out can sort of overwhelm Trump in these swing states. And that question is yet to be answered. I think Trump will win because all of the factors that we do know point to that. But there are some X factors that could swing the election the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, so Jacob, who do you think? Who do you think the Democratic nominee will be?
Well, I think as things are set up right now, all things being equal, Biden's going to be crowned. I think he could probably run the tables in various states, especially as we get into some of these southern states. He's going to pick up delegates like there's no tomorrow. Bloomberg will be interesting. He will throw delegates to Biden, I'm sure. If Bloomberg wins as many, all he needs is 10% of the delegates, and then Mike Bloomberg decides who the nominee is at a brokered convention, and that's how it works. So he could sure be a kingmaker. And then the other thing is, we're certainly getting down to the wire here, but if the Democrats really wanted to win, they would get Hillary Clinton up off the couch and they'd run her again, and they'd rig elections and do whatever they needed to do to get her the nomination if they wanted to win, because Hillary's already shown that she can win the popular vote. And basically she could run on a platform of, and she's already made comments to this effect, I won already and I'll beat him again. This time the Russians won't rig it. So that'll be her pitch. And it could probably do as well as anything else in the election. So Biden's set to be crowned. You have these sort of X factors that could change things. But all other things being equal, Biden's going to outperform and be the nominee.
So kind of pivoting off of the U.S. elections, what are your thoughts on Brexit? Yesterday they finally left the EU. Do you think other countries might go and follow suit?
Well, it's very interesting. The hope of the bureaucratic class in England was that they could sort of just bore people out of Brexit and never actually Brexit. And it took them a handful of elections, not just one, to finally get Brexit done. Now, to that point, Brexit isn't truly done. I mean, there's been some symbolic movings of flags and saying we're no longer a member, this, that, and the other. But it remains unclear whether Britain's going to keep paying these massive fees, I don't know what else to call them, to the EU. In the best deal scenario before, they were set to pay $30 billion a year to the EU. They pay these massive fees, and all indications are they're still going to pay these fees. So I don't know that Brexit really is done. And I think that this could be a symbolic victory that doesn't actually bear out in real terms, but we'll have to see. It is good that they've finally done it. I think there are other countries where you have nationalist movements rising up, like Italy and Austria, certainly, are places where you see this. So I hope that we continue to see this. I don't think that these multilateral, multinational, bureaucratic, technocratic, managerial bodies work very well for anybody, besides the bureaucrats, of course, who get $3 a day per diems to eat at the best restaurants, chauffeurs, and massive salaries.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So do you think that Britain's kind of already so far gone, even with Brexit, they're really not going to be changing much in terms of their culture and deep down?
Yes, I do. I mean, Britain is finished from a demographic standpoint. The most popular baby name in Britain now is Mohammed, and there's no indication that any of that is changing. From a cultural standpoint, the British society, the traditional British society, that is impotent and passive, and the new society of Britain, the new rather Islamic society, if you will, is aggressive. They're bold. They're unafraid. They're unabashed. And these are the people that are going to decide the future of Britain. And Britain remains a place where, God forbid, a person like Tommy Robinson reports on violent Muslim rape gangs, he'll get thrown in jail. So these are I think Britain is not a place where people should take a consolation prize and move back there. It's a disaster.
Okay. Hey, so Trump, recently, Trump unveiled the vision for peace for the Middle East. What do you think about the plan? Do you think it actually stands a chance, or will be adopted, or what do you see with that?
Well, the short answer is no. I have long wondered why we waste any time on these peace plans. It's something that every president does. It's, I guess they assume, obligatory. Every president wants to do it. I think that the sort of light at the end of the tunnel, the what if we did get it done, sort of blinds them. It's blinding because they think it would be so great and so historical and so great for their legacy. But the reality is that the Palestinian population on one side of Israel in the West Bank chose Mahmoud Abbas as their leader, as their president. He's one of the architects of the 1972 Munich Olympics massacre. That's who they choose as their leader, a terrorist kingpin. If you go to the other side of the country and you go to the Gaza Strip, you have a society that chooses Hamas as their leadership. And we don't even need to get into their accolades in the terror world. So On its face, I think negotiating with people that make those sorts of choices of leadership is a futile task. It's a task that has a very low probability of success. It has no probability of success. And sure enough, we've seen that. The peace deal was announced, and immediately Palestinians started launching rockets, protesting violently in the streets. This is what happens. And so what I'd like to see is the U.S. just stop wasting our time and money on these types of deals, because they're not deals. They're pieces of paper, and I don't see any future in them.
Well, interesting. What do you think? Because I guess Netanyahu's under investigation, I guess, for some sort of corruption type thing. What do you think of that?
Well, it's interesting. Israel has a history of investigating and, in fact, in indicting their leaders. Netanyahu's not the first one to be criminally investigated, or even the first one to be charged. One of their presidents did time in prison. This is a pattern in Israel. It's a pattern that I think we're seeing coming here to the United States, and it's a disturbing one. And I think it's tough in these parliamentary countries because you don't have the kinds of longstanding norms that we have in the U.S., like executive privilege, like Article 2 powers. You just don't have these setups over there. So I think Netanyahu will stick it out. It's a matter of putting together a parliamentary coalition, and at some point or another, he will or he won't. In either event, I don't think he's going to do any time in jail, and I think that's a real political witch hunt.
Last question I'll ask about Israel, because I see on the right sort of a new sort of division forming up where you have some people on the right that are pro-Israel, a lot of evangelicals, a lot of more religious people. But then you see people on the right like the Groypers that are very anti-Israel. Do you think the right's going to stay pro-Israel, or do you think the attitude's going to change at all?
Well, I think broadly speaking, the right's going to stay pro-Israel. If you just look at different groups, I mean, even among young people, you have Turning Points USA conferences that have 10,000 kids show up from around the country. You have New Right type conferences that are very anti-Israel. That's in fact probably the main bent of their gatherings, and they have a few dozen people show up, maybe 100 people, and so broadly speaking, even young people are still kind of in the same generation as kind of older evangelicals, in the same belief system, that is, in terms of Israel. So I think broadly speaking, we're going to see continued support for Israel, and this new kind of anti-Israel movement that certainly makes a lot of noise. I think people see it for what it is. It's animated by Jew hatred, and it's not something that's going to catch on.
Yeah, I agree. I think the right's going to stay pretty pro-Israel, especially with a Christian base at the hold of it. And to pivot over to more of the stuff that you've done in the past that people have heard your name from, because you've held press conferences about Kamala Harris, Pocahontas. I think even Robert Mueller, you had some stuff on. And people would say that you're spreading fake news. I think even the Twitter, like one of the higher ups at Twitter on Joe Rogan said that you're like acting like a Russian meddling in our elections. What do you say to all these accusations that keep getting thrown around, like that everybody's a Russian bot or a Russian meddler?
Yeah.
And since then, you've been banned from Twitter. So what do you think about the big tech censorship then?
Well, first of all, I do meddle in American elections, and I'm an American, and as such, I'm allowed to do so. And so I don't see the problem with meddling in our elections. The CEO of Twitter does. Certainly, I take the fight right to the left, and I do so in a way that I think a lot of people have in the past. Unfortunately, some of these people either aren't alive any longer, in the case of people like Lee Atwater, or they're in a kind of retired state, if you talk about people like Karl Rove, or they are, the subject of witch hunts and set to be sentenced this week in the case of Roger Stone. So somebody's got to take the mantle. Somebody has to bring the fight to the left and be afraid to not hold anything back. be prepared to deal in the world of rumor and online rumor at that. And certainly I'm happy to do so. And people have seen that over time.
Other than yourself, of course, who would you say are the best fighters in the right now?
Well, of course, I'd have to give a nod to my sort of partner in all of this, Jack Berkman. But otherwise, you've got a lot of great people. You've got people like Laura Loomer, who's now running for Congress, but she's just been an absolute bulldog for the last number of years. You have people like Mike Cernovich, who has been taking a sort of a hiatus, but I'm sure is going to be a huge player in the 2020 election. And really so many others. I think of Ali Alexander, for instance, and the work that he did to defrock Kamala Harris by pointing out rightfully that she's not an American black in the sense that American blacks define their identity, and really took care of her. So there's a lot of great people out there, but that's just to name a few.
So, like, sort of kind of pivoting, back, you mentioned Kamala Harris and, just Democrats in general. What do you think was the whole reason for this big push for impeachment? Do you think it was largely the result of them just having terrible candidates out there? Because I can't see, the only real one that I see that has any sort of potential, would have been Tulsi Gabbard, and I think she's pretty much dead in the water right now.
Yeah, she was dead in the water from the start. She was never going to have any chance of gaining any broad support, and she didn't help herself by getting on the stage at these debates and being completely boring, completely scripted, unwilling to go on the attack in most cases, and so she didn't really help herself either. But when you talk about the impeachment push, it was terribly unwise in an election year to run an impeachment. The losses that Democrats are going to suffer politically have already been told and can only get worse. This is a result of Nancy Pelosi not being able to hold down her party, not being able to hold together the caucus. Nancy Pelosi is up there in age. She's drugged up. She uses all kinds of drugs. She's just not the same person she used to be. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is go back and watch her talking about impeachment of George Bush in 2006 on 60 Minutes. Different person, just a different person, completely. That was when she first became speaker and was kind of new and exciting. And now she's washed up. But she couldn't hold down the caucus. You had your AOCs, your Rashida Tlaibs, these extremists who were going to push for impeachment, and they did. And she couldn't hold it together. And as such, they're going to suffer losses.
So last question from me. Now, I know you're originally like a big name from economics and whatnot. Now, what are your thoughts on like ETFs? Like, I keep seeing these articles about them saying that like there's going to be a big sort of crash with ETFs because people aren't going to be paying attention to the smaller stocks. Do you think that's going to happen? And, if you have any sort of predictions for the economy as a whole?
Well, ETFs are a lower fee way to track indexes. There's no doubt about that. And at the end of the day, if you're picking between ETFs and mutual funds, as most people are, that's really what they're talking about doing. It's not a debate between should I be a 3-stock portfolio stock picker competing with David Tepper, or should I buy ETFs? Nobody's asking that question. If you're really going to be a stock picker and an active trader, then you're going to do that anyway. And maybe you'll supplement with ETFs here and there. But the debate for most people is whether ETFs or mutual funds are a better option. And mutual funds can be a better option. This is what people have kind of left out of the conversation. And when you talk about something like healthcare, the ETF is what it is. It's going to track a set of stocks. But there may be a mutual fund out there, and you'd have to look at the pro formas and look at the performance and make sure that what you're looking at is after cost performance. And there are cases where, in particular instances, maybe it's growth, maybe it's international, whatever category, whatever genre we're talking about, mutual funds have, in fact, in some cases, outperformed their respective competitors in the ETF world. So I'd encourage people to keep an open mind and just look. And of course, past performance is no guarantee or even indicator of future performance. So take it with a grain of salt. But there are many a case where people that have been in mutual funds have in fact done better than their friend next door who is in ETFs. So I'm not dogmatic about it. There are instances where one is better. And of course, people have this discussion about market liquidity and are ETF setting up systemic risk and all of these things. It's quite possible that they are. Thankfully, these days we have very good. People can debate on a intellectual level and a political level and a philosophical level whether you should have these or not. But there are very effective circuit breakers in the market right now. If some news headline were to run through AP by accident, or it got hacked, and the news headline said that China actually has 125 million with Wuhan fever, let's say, that would cause the market to dive. The good news is that trading would stop after it was down. In some instances, it's 9%, in others, it's 8%. It depends whether you're talking about futures or equities or different markets. But the circuit breakers work, and they will give markets a chance to cool off, and I think eliminate a lot of this concern that, well, there's these big ETFs, and it's like trying to turn around a ship, and they won't be able to keep up with liquidity. I'm not so worried about that. I think that risk is overplayed.
Well, you see a lot of Democrats a few months ago talking about that there's going to be this big recession with Trump's second term, all this stuff. Do you think there's actually going to be a recession coming soon, or if there's going to be a student loan debt recession of sorts?
Well, I think what you're looking at is basically over the next 5 years, and I know I'm probably not the only person to say this, but you have something like a 20% chance of recession each year. And it doesn't roll over. So because it doesn't happen one year doesn't necessarily make it more likely the next. Mm-hmm. But you do have this sort of embedded risk of recession, and nobody can quite tell you when the right time to get off the train is. If somebody knew, well, they would be the genius that the market's never seen, but no one does. So you don't have a crystal ball, but you have something like an 11%, or rather a 20% chance each year. The other thing that you have is you have a situation where Trump has, I think, bullied the Fed into running insane monetary policy, talking about the Fed now versus what people might consider to be reasonable, and they kind of have to because the rest of the world is doing that as well. But this is something that could cause the market to not go down. You could have a situation where the Fed says, okay, well, we'd just rather go to negative rates than have a double-digit type recession. That could happen. So we don't really know, and it's a whole new universe with these kind of rates around the world. It's a whole different world.
Yeah. So last thing I'll ask, because we always ask this of all our guests, is as we roll into 2020, where can people find you to keep up on your meddling operations, your bodybuilding goals, whatever you have planned? Where can people find you?
Well, the best place is my Instagram at Jacob A. Wohl, JACOBAWOHL. It won't pop up if you search it because I'm shadow banned on there. And you can find all the links to my website and everything else there. But that's the best place for people to find me. Instagram at Jacob A. Wohl.
And you also have a Telegram channel, correct?
That's right. Telegram, it's t.me, letter t.me/Jacob A. Wohl.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jacob, for coming on. We loved it. You were very insightful and brought a really new, interesting, cool perspective to our show. So really appreciate you taking the time to come on, and hope you have a nice day.
You bet. Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.
Take care.
There we go. Woo! So, what'd you think of that?
It was interesting. I like to go and talk to different people, especially the economics sort of thing. I found that particularly interesting.
Yeah, he knows a lot. He's a really smart dude. You hear him talk about economics. Like he knows a lot. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, I always like people from I like having guests on the show. I like having especially like if they know what they're talking about, even if you don't agree with everything that they're saying, like even like you can understand their perspective, and you could certainly, appreciate the work that they do behind whatever they believe in.
Mhm.
I can certainly respect that. Yeah, he was a good guest. I really liked it.
Yeah, I've always been interested in Jacob, and then when I saw Milo doing stuff with him and Cernovich, I know is mentioned before, so I thought, this is an interesting guy. I better check him out. And lucky to have him on the show, so that was really cool. Is there anything you guys want to dive into next?
Can't really think of too much. I got a new vaporizer today.
Cool.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's like the weirdest one I've ever seen. It's like a survival like vaporizer.
Survival.
It's got like a compass in there. It's got a flashlight. Like, I don't know. It's the strangest one that I've ever bought.
So it's like the Swiss Army knives of like vapes. It's a Swiss Army vape.
Yeah. I guess if I ever go trekking in the woods, bring this, and I guess.
Yeah, they should start putting that in jewels, because like all the girls I see on campus and the guys that have their jewels, like they don't want to lose those things, and when they do, they like cry. So you put a compass on there, you put maybe a GPS tracker, I don't know, you put anything on there, and that will stay on their body, other than their cell phone.
Well, here's the thing with like jewels. Like, I don't get why people like those ones so much, because honestly, you're paying so much money for the stupid cartridges.
How much are they?
I don't know. It's like you pay by the cartridge. I don't know. I heard they're pretty expensive. Like, I just go and like, I go and buy the vape juice, and I can go and like mix my own flavors. I know where it's coming from, and it's pretty cost effective for that. Like, I might spend like $20 a month or something, and I hit it pretty often. Versus a jewel, you're paying like I think it's like 10, or I have to go and look up the prices, but like the actual packs of those, they can get up there. That's how they make their money.
Yeah.
The actual machine itself, it's almost like the iPod Touch of
of jewels.
Yeah, like the iPod of vaporizers.
Yeah.
Like, you can see like it gets like I don't know why people like them so much. So if I want 4 jewel pods, let's go and see how much the card will be. It's $22.
Jesus.
Well, $16 for the pods themselves, and then there's like a $7 shipping charge. But like that's ridiculous.
How do college kids afford these things?
I don't know. They probably do what college kids do.
They go to the frat house and bum a few off.
Money.
Yeah, put on their student loans. I don't know. Like they're expensive. Like the same thing with like cigarettes. Like you'd think, I guess it's cheaper than buying multiple packs of cigarettes, because these days they jack up the price of those so much. But like it's still not that much of a cost saving. So I guess like if you're really into you definitely don't want to be buying jewels or really any cartridge-based system, because that's how they'll get you. Like they don't make those refillable. Like, I mean, there's probably ways you can do it, but you have to like, I don't know. It's like replacing the battery for your iPod. It's not very easy.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was walking to the Turning Point meeting on Thursday to set up, I was the first person in the room, and I guess it's after a class or something, because they had like the clicker thing out on the podium, and I see these 2 like black things on the podium, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, are those supposed to be some sort of like USB like drives with like a huge cover or something? Like what is this? Is it like a clicker? Because it started looking like a clicker because I saw like a little light on it, and then I saw the word jewel on there. It's like, Jesus, get these out of here. I don't have that Turning Point meetings. I got classy the place up, so I took those out.
Those are probably the classier vaporizers, I'd say.
I mean, it's definitely like, when you look at it, it's pretty cleanly designed and all that. But I'm looking, I'm like, what's this doing on the podium? Do like a teacher or a professor take it from the students, or they leave it there themselves? I mean, there were 2 of them.
I don't know. Like if like Apple made a vaporizer, like it'd have to be the jewel. It's overpriced, it's expensive, it's not as good, and people like it. So
yeah,
basically Apple in a nutshell. It looks nice, and that's about it.
Yeah. Oh, other thing, news on our end. I've officially bought my ticket to CPAC, so I'm going to CPAC. Got a discount rate for that, and I'm gonna be sleeping in a bunk bed technically, but I'll deal with it for 4 nights because it's gonna be pretty lit and pretty
Hey, that's
cool.
better than what I had when I was in the College Republicans. They made us like sleep 4 guys to like a room that's supposed to hold 2, so we had like 2 guys in each bed.
Oh, how was that?
Actually, we had more because people were asleep on the floor too. Like I don't know, it was I don't know.
Did the hotel live up to its name?
No, absolutely not. Like you'd think you'd get like all sorts of like cool stuff. Well, I meant for the gay thing, yeah, but like you
Took you a
know,
while to get that.
yeah, I forgot what hotel it was at. But no, everything else in there, was pretty. You'd think it'd be like super great, but like the outlets and the walls, they were like. I almost felt like it wasn't very. It was done right. Like they probably should have had an electrician there.
What was wrong
then,
with
like,
the outlets?
Anything you had to go and pay out the wazoo for it.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. That's why I was thinking of you going through CRs or LI. I end up going through LI because LI guaranteed you the housing. If you got the ticket now, and the ticket was always $75. That's less than the student ticket just to go CPAC, and it's $75 including CPAC and the hotel or bunk. So that's a steal. I mean, that's the best, literally the best deal. But if you were to go through CRs here, well, let's just say there's no guarantee you're going at the rate I'm hearing things are happening. So I just made the decision, put the money down, and I might have a companion going with me. So we'll see how it goes because might be fun, might not be. What might be interesting, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna check it out. I'll be careful so I don't get caught in some stupid association I don't attend. But Nick Fuentes is having his America First pack, which is going to be on one night to CPAC. It's also going to be the Night for Freedom with Mike Cernovich. I'm definitely going to the Night for Freedom with Mike Cernovich. That'd be really cool. But the America First pack, I might look at it from a distance and see what's going on. But I saw on Milo's Telegram, he said, I want to go to AFPAC, but I think I'm banned for being too famous and therefore distracting. Because he got an email from them that said, Milo, while we appreciate your interest in attending the Groyper Leadership Summit, we've decided that it would be best if you didn't attend. You're a far larger name than any of the speakers, so you'd likely steal the show. I mean, just imagine having to write that in an email to somebody who you didn't even invite. A big name, you didn't even have to invite them. They're literally willing to come to the event. And they're saying, no, sorry, you're too big for us, pal. So you'd likely steal the show. I hope you can understand our concerns. Best wishes, GOS staff. Now,
Wait, hold on. That's Nick Fuentes' group, right?
Yes.
That's what a D move.
Mm-hmm.
What a
that's
D
funny.
move. You're talking about wasn't Nick Fuentes on Milo's show?
Yeah. Milo invited him
He
on.
was just on the other week. Yeah, invited him on and everything. And tried to like reason with him and agree with like it was. I thought it was a good conversation.
I thought so too, considering Nick Fuentes has some wacky views that Milo even brought up, but he still tried to see his side, tried to agree on, find some common ground. But this is the problem with this group. I've noticed this on a personal level.
By the way, I really like Milo's interview. I think Milo is a really good interviewer.
Yeah.
By the way,
he always it's kind of like with Howard Stern, where he can always kind of get the best out of his guests. I think that's the real art of interviewing, is when you can do that. And
I don't know. I don't really care for Howard Stern after that Hillary Clinton interview.
no, Howard Stern has gone downhill recently. Don't get me wrong, but he still can be an amazing interviewer. He still can be really good. When he had Paul McCartney on, it was really good. When he's had some people back on in his heyday, he was really good. But yeah, the Hillary Clinton stuff just shows how low things have gotten, unfortunately. But Nick and his group, their biggest problem is their stupid purity test, where if you don't check every single box, you could just partially check the last box. But nope, you're done. Chop your head off and leave you on the curb. They do
They're
this.
just as bad as the liberals.
Yeah, they are. They're bad as the extreme left, because now you're not going to have allies. And how are you going to grow your movement? You can't grow a movement with these insane standards that nobody can meet except a few people, and they probably don't even meet them. This is why I've given up on trying to reason with these people or tried to, unify the right or anything, because you're just not going to get anywhere with these people.
Yeah, that's kind of what you have to do. You just kind of cut off those loose ends and do your own thing, because, it's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's
Wait, so is this at CPAC or this like nearby?
It's kind of like they did with the Groyper Leadership Summit during the Turning Point Conference, which it'll be during the time of it, but it's going to be like in a separate building, a separate location that's nearby. So I don't know specifically where it's going to be. I don't even know if they've announced the details of it, but I mean, still, who thinks it's like you can't bring somebody that's, too famous? That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Imagine if Trump wants to come to your conference. You're like, nope, sorry, Trump. I mean, you're too famous. You bring too many people. I think the reason they disinvited Milo pretty much, it's not I know these people hate Milo, these Groypers. I know it because they've told me that. I think they hate his followers more. I think they're worried about his people coming and degrading the purity of the whole thing. I think that's really where this move is coming from. Am I wrong?
See, that's what you guys should do is you should groip the groipers.
Yeah. Well, I will say the college Dems are having a debate, quote unquote, where they all agree with each other on Monday, and I've learned that there's going to be a Q&A, 30-minute Q&A, and it would be a shame. It would just be a shame if a bunch of Turning Point people come and ask questions, and a bunch of CRs come and ask questions. It'd be a shame.
CRs, they'd probably agree with most of the things that they say.
What?
If it's anything like when I was at Penn State.
Well, I will say some of them are definitely way too left-leaning for my taste, but I think some of them have some hope, and some of them are pretty aligned with what I believe. So, it'll be interesting to see how they handle this one, because the college Democrats are not particularly keen on having debates or discussions with people they legitimately disagree with on big issues. So I'm going to see what happens. I'm definitely asking a question.
Well, see, what you should go and do is you should start a poster campaign just calling out the college Dems.
Yeah.
For not debating you guys.
Yeah, I've contemplated a few things, and our big event we're having coming up, and Phil and I were talking about this last night, I think we're going to be pushing back the announcement date a bit. I think when I was looking at the calendar, I don't know what my mind was thinking of doing it on President's Day, announcing our big speaking event with this new club that I've started called Uncensored America. Because if we announce on that, we have 3 weeks, spring break, and then 4, almost 5 weeks after that till the big day. I think that's a bit too much. I think it might be too early. If anybody wants to call in and give me some advice on this, I'd appreciate it. But I think there is a case of being too early on something.
Yeah, it's better to wait a little while to do that sort of thing, And
St. Patrick's Day might be a nice day to do it,
No, people at State Patties say people are gonna not be paying attention to that at all. No matter what you do. That's just, at least when I was here, that's a night of debauchery.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying during the night, but during the lunch rush, or would people not be paying attention much then?
What if it's the day after St. Patrick's Day?
Or the day
people
before?
People are hungover.
Or no, maybe 2 days after. Because you got St. Patrick's Day.
No, it's a Thursday.
You got St. Patrick's Day, everybody's getting trashed. And then the day after that, everybody's recovering. And then the day after that would be
The problem with that is it's on a Thursday, and that's too late in the week.
Yeah.
That's the thing, people. If you'll learn this in journalism, always things. Big stories always get dropped on Mondays, Tuesdays, or worst case, Wednesday.
Yeah.
You want to just do the Monday afterwards.
Yeah.
Lose some advertising time, but maybe.
Oh no, I mean we could make a go of it. And it would be a stinging effect too, right? Because everybody's all relaxed and they're all happy from the the St. Patrick's Day weekend, and the Monday hits, and then all of a sudden they get this news, and it's hits them like a bag of bricks.
I would give us then 3, almost 4 weeks to advertise, which is not a lot of time. See, that's the thing is tricky because the last event we had 3 weeks to advertise and do all that stuff, and unfortunately that was like too little. That was just enough to get what we got, but that's too close for comfort. You need like 5 weeks, really.
Well, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, we can talk more about this after the show, but just throwing that out there because that's the thing that's tricky about event planning is like the announcement itself is sort of an event in itself, because you got to build the hype, you got to plan things right. It's tricky business. I mean, there is a such thing as too early, but sometimes there isn't because sometimes when something is so big and so, like earth shattering, people aren't going to forget it. I remember when they announced David Hogg coming here. I think that was announced before Christmas break or during, which is a weird time. And they still got 500 people packed in there. And I think they had to turn away some people too. So, we'll think about it after the show. But did you guys see Don Lemon on CNN and this awful clip where his quote-unquote Republican colleague is mocking Trump supporters by using a Southern accent and acting like they're illiterate and don't understand math and that they're stupid, basically. And Don Lemon's laughing the whole time.
Yeah, it's fine to go make fun of people, who might have actual problems. If there's someone who is like making fun of like an inner city, like, especially someone, who might not be white, and someone did that, that would be really racist. But it's okay to go make fun of Trump supporters because that's CNN.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, some people are like, well, you Trump supporters getting triggered over this. I'm not triggered. I'm just, you can't let these people get away with this amount of disrespect for the average American voter, the average American working class guy that's just working his butt off, is smart, intelligent, and you're just degrading them. I mean, that's the thing. Like Trump supporters, when they mock people that aren't politicians, they're mocking like these SJWs or these crazy people calling for bans on hate speech, who think that and believe in body positivity, that you're beautiful if you're super fat, or they believe in socialism and a bunch of crazy stuff. But these people are mocking like average Americans, and it's pretty degrading. Like they're mocking a majority of the country.
Well, Sony used to go and just like make compilations of these things.
They already made an ad of this one. RNC already made an ad.
Well, see, you guys should go and like, with Turning Point, maybe your new club, just like start compiling this stuff.
Yeah.
Yourselves, and then like release, like make a sort of compilation to go and play at your meetings. Be like, hey, this is what we're fighting against. This sort of elitism over here. Because I've noticed that a lot with like, especially like Democrats and like people, like especially ones who go to like elitist schools. They think they're so much better than everyone else. Like, hey, if you didn't go to like Georgetown, or an Ivy League school or whatever, you're kind of like, in a separate class.
Yeah.
And they say that they're like, so, hey, I love poor people. I love people of different colors. But, if you're like not as smart as them, or like, like maybe not as smart as them, but like, just aren't into the sort of stuff that they're into. Like if you don't know all these like super obscure, like academia definitions, they'll just get really like, they just hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen this before at Penn State, like, certain clubs over here.
Yeah, and they always have their own language, like, oh, you can't say that, you're tone policing me. It's just so stupid. Or that's tone deaf, or all these other ones, like that's whataboutism. They love their own little terms that they come up with to try and shut you down.
Yeah, they just make up words, and it is a form of elitism, and it just, like, they won't do it to themselves. Like if you vote Democrat, they're not, and you like uphold the leftist values, they're not going to say anything. But as soon as you have a difference of opinion with them, they'll just like flip their lid. Yeah, they'll find every way to go and call you an idiot, and that I find particularly an issue.
Yeah,
I don't know. People have just gotten so like hostile lately.
Mhm.
And it's really from one side. I don't see this coming from the right nearly as much as I see it coming from the left. And people want to go and be like, oh, we want to go and bridge the gap between the two sides. Like, dude, look at your side. Your side's the one that's doing it in 9 out of 10 cases.
Yeah, and that's like with I think I've told this story on the air. When we had our censored event with Sargon and Hunter, I got a call from the college Dems president, and she's all like saying, "Oh, I just want to talk as humans because I don't want there to be any violence. Can you just make sure your side is calm and collected and nonviolent at the event?" And I'm thinking, I was nice to her. I wanted to stay nice to her, but I'm thinking, look, why are you worried about our side? It's your side. It's always bringing the violence and the intense resistance. Your side has Antifa, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, but you guys have the alt-right." Well, kind of, but I don't even consider those people really right-leaning in many ways, and those people are very small.
What have they done over at Penn State? The most they've done at Penn State was like make a few posters.
Yeah.
Like that's literally all they do.
Yeah, they really haven't done anything. And with our upcoming event, man, I've been talking to some people at the university and working on this event. They're like, yeah, we're going to see protests like we've never seen before. And I'm thinking, geez, I wonder why. It's because, I mean, it's not, the other side is so nice. They're so tolerant. They love us. I mean, they're not going to do anything wrong. Well, we'll see. I don't want anything bad to happen, but I'm just saying people need to prepare for the worst because these people are insane. Absolutely insane. The things they protest, the things they say about who they're protesting, it's just awful. But anything interesting going on in you guys' life at all?
Not really.
Well, no. I mean, I think one of the things we forgot to cover is the passing of Kobe Bryant.
Oh yeah,
that's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
That's it. It didn't just hit the United States. It hit all over the world. Like I'm a European soccer fan, and they were doing moments of silence in Europe, like for the guy. And I mean, it's like he's had a lot. I mean, and he wasn't really just a great basketball player, but he won an Oscar. He was doing stuff outside of basketball too. There's a lot. I mean,
because that news broke on, I believe, Sunday of last week. Hence why we didn't talk about it on the last show. But it was. I learned about on Discord when you, Phil, posted saying Kobe Bryant just died, helicopter crash, and I'm like, what? No way! Like it just was just so out of left field. It was, and tragic too to learn that his 13-year-old daughter, was on there too. I mean, God, that's just awful to think about.
Yeah. And it was like, and then hearing the story, like hearing a lot of what he was trying to do for his daughter too. Like he was trying to mold her to become another basketball player.
Yeah.
That got to me a little bit.
You see that what's happening too is like a lot of lefty people start protesting that. Like there's
do you know what really upset me? Okay, so when the news was still fresh and everybody was still kind of reeling in, some insane person from the Washington Post wrote about his past, right? Because he while he was still playing, he had an affair or whatever, and they tried to basically damage his name while his funeral was still being planned. It's like, do you guys have no shame at all? And of course she got flack for it, and deservedly so, but I mean, it's it's one of those things you always are like, look, let the bad stuff rest. You know, the guy's gone. It's like I was really unnerved by that.
I know. It's like I see this stuff and it's like, come on. You know, it's like after a shooting when people like immediately start politicizing it or immediately, you know, like blaming this person or saying nasty things about the victims. Like, I forget which one it was where they were saying, oh, this person that was killed was an alt-right, you know, Nazi or something. And it's like, guys, just, I mean, I don't know if we should honestly be politicizing stuff that quickly, but at the same time, it's like people need to just, they don't, I think there's a weird, we were talking about this last night with ESPN kind of milking the cow of Kobe Bryant's death. Like they keep talking about it. They have these specials, documentaries, yeah. It's almost like people have no issue with using the death of somebody to get something for themselves, which is pretty messed up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really care too much for sports, but like, I don't know. I don't think it's right for people to be doing what they're doing about this guy after he died. Like, come on, you know, the dude hasn't even been dead for like, you know, a week, and you're like saying all these horrible things. And like, I have a friend who like, you know, they post like this nonchalant like sort of meme, like not really attacking him, not really, you know, not attacking him, and like people who thought like feminists were going after her, like, oh, you know, you shouldn't say anything about this guy, he's a rapist. And I'm just like, you know, that's ridiculous for you to be going and saying this about a dead person. Like, he can't even defend himself.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a Michael Jackson. You know, all these accusations things come out after he dies, and
there was stuff going on when he like there was a little.
There
bit
was stuff, yeah. There was stuff when he was alive, but you didn't hear
like,
a lot of
this. That whole thing on South Park, like there was.
That's when you know when all these stuff happens when they die. Know that the whole thing that most of it is BS, because you can't sue somebody for libel if they're dead. Like, you can't do it. That's like one of those exceptions to freedom of speech. Like the whole suing somebody with libel or whatever. So yeah, I like, even when the Finding Neverland happened or whatever, or Escaping Neverland, whatever it was, that documentary, I was watching that whole thing. I'm like, these dudes are lying. I'm sorry.
And I think the thing too of Michael Jackson, I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard both sides generally. Like the one saying like he abused, you know, young people and children, and the other saying that, well, Michael's upbringing kind of made him almost childlike and wish he had a childhood or something. So it could be a weird sort of whatchamacall, like a effect of his childhood. And I'm not condoning the behavior of Michael Jackson. Again, I don't know all the details, but that's what I've been hearing on both sides. I don't have a stance on it, but that's what I have heard, is that he more or less just wanted to sort of relive a childhood. He didn't really, you know, groom or abuse children is what one side's saying, but I don't know. So that, again, that's just what I've heard.
Yeah, it's a very interesting sort of case with all this stuff. I don't know. I just don't know, like, I don't know, maybe I'm callous or something, but like this celebrity worship that we have over here, I just find that a little bit interesting. You know, we got like soldiers and stuff dying every day. No one gives a crap about them, but like as soon as someone, you know, dies over, you know, who's like a sports player, people give a crap.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I wasn't, I'm always like, I feel the same way. It's just that this particular one had a story behind it that kind of got to me. Like, and that probably got to me more than anything. It's like, oh, a celebrity's dead. Well, you know, I didn't really know him, so I'm not gonna comment one way or the other. But like, seeing his story about how, you know, about how he's doing so much for his family, and it was like, oh, yeah, that got to me. That got to me.
I know. It got to me a little bit too, because I'd been thinking about a few things at that time and going through some sort of, you know, just thinking about life in general. So like when I saw that, I was just like, really twisted things. And it's one of those instances where, you know, it was not his fault really. It sounds like it was all really just the pilot made a bad decision to fly in bad weather, foggy weather, and that's just the worst, you know, especially at his age. I actually was looking at our YouTube studio because we do this in association with Versa Media for all those who don't know. Somebody actually left a comment that was kind of something we already fixed, but I thought it was worth mentioning. I can't pronounce their handle here, but they said, "You're interviewing a tech personnel's Trent Lipinski, and your audio sounds like it was recorded with a potato." Well, that was the time we had him on through the phone because that's, I think, the way he wanted to do it at the time. So, unfortunately, it did sound bad, but that's what we were working with, what we had. Your channel has some high-profile guests, and the hosting skills are top quality, but please check audio before recording. So we got a compliment there. Somebody said we have a high-quality hosting, so good job, guys.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've noticed over here. It's like, I don't know, I'm thankful that Penn State gives us the ability to go and like call and stuff, but I don't know, some of these equipment over here probably should be, especially like the voice line, because I mean, you know, I don't know if you have any statistics on this stuff, but I imagine, you know, most people probably, if they have guests, they're gonna be on the phone.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's kind of.
That's what, you know? Like Faraj's show on LBC in Britain, like he always has people on the phone calling, and I love the Discord because I think Discord is the best quality of anything, but unfortunately, that's a multi-step process for people to join it. You know, they have to create an account, join the server, and then pop in the channel, which is nice once you get people on there, but unfortunately, not so nice if you just want people randomly calling in. That's why they have the phone number. So it'd be cool if that could sound better, but unfortunately, nope.
Especially if like they're older, they might not have access to some of these things.
Yeah. Speaking of, you know somebody that we might be getting on the show soon.
Yeah, I talked to a few different people. I'm gonna see. You know, there was who was that? There was some guy. I forget what his name. Joshua Prince. He's a lawyer over here who recently put a stay in the process where they were trying to go and like regulate 80% receivers in PA as firearms.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you don't know, an 80% receiver is basically like a block of metal. People tend to go and like drill holes and whatnot, and they can turn it into a firearm, but in and of itself, it's just a piece of metal.
Yeah.
And they want to, like, Governor Wolf has been trying to go and regulate those differently. But, you know, if you were to do that, that'd open up the, you know, it would open up a Pandora's box, basically. Because there's already so much that, like, so many of these have been made. You can buy these in other states without having to go through any sort of background checks or anything. So it's kind of, you know, really vague what he's trying to go and do with that. And has a lot of potential effects, like sort of tertiary. So he's actually done like a lot of work too. Like, I think he did something so that people who had, like mental health, like when they were committed, like, because for the longest time, if you're committed, you're screwed basically for the rest of your life. You can never own a gun. There is no way to appeal that. I believe he got that overturned. So now it's like, you know, after 15 years, you can get it, you know, looked at again, which is a long time, but, you know, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Which that's a whole sort of thing too, because like you'd be surprised what people can get involuntarily committed for. Like if you're at a hospital or something, it's not even mental health related, but like if the doctor wants you to stay there and you don't want to stay there, they can have you 302. And if, you know, even if you do want to stay there, but then the doctor feels that, you know, you should kind of be forced to stay there, there's like another sort of thing. It's like a 301 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happens, at least in PA, for the longest time, there's no way to appeal that. And there was really nothing you could really do about that situation. You'd lose your gun rights, and you know, it's pretty terrible. It still is, but, you know,
yeah,
one of those sort of low-known things that happen to people. And there was another guy, too, I was talking to. He was a soloist scout in Rhodesia back when that was the thing. He has some interesting stories. They're basically, I don't know, it was like sort of the predecessor, I guess. Like they did a lot of what you consider like special operations, like going behind enemy lines, you know, kind of like almost like SEAL sort of stuff. but like, it wasn't America, so it wasn't the SEALs. But like one of the very first sort of special forces programs that had a great deal of success, like in kind of using guerrilla tactics against guerrilla fighters. So there's, I was talking to him. I'll see about him. Like he's older, so that he'd be probably more of an issue with the technology than anything else.
Yeah, we can work something out. We'll figure it out. But thanks for the update on that. One thing I don't think I mentioned it on this show, but our Twitter account for the show, Versa Media, where we upload our content on YouTube and whatnot, we have been banned by Nick Fuentes. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Nick is pretty trigger happy with his bans, from what I've heard. And I asked him once about this Catboy video that came out, because there's not a lot of context to it. People are calling it a date, which I'm not gonna lie, I really don't think it was. I think it was just two guys hanging out, but still a bit odd. So especially for a guy that hates all this sort of stuff. And so I messaged him on Twitter. I added him in our tweet, asking just politely and respectfully. I was like, "Could you explain like the context behind this?" I wasn't trying to be, rude or like having a gotcha moment or anything like that. I was just curious because he wasn't answering it, and I just thought, well, let's help clear the air and let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And he just banned us. So you can see that even some of these people on the right are, not too keen on answering certain questions. And it's rather ironic coming from him, who got all mad at Charlie Kirk for not answering certain tough questions. But when you ask him a tough question, he's got an issue with it. So
I'm kind of wondering if there's extra context, like why he would do that to you. 'Cause that just seems really shady.
It is. And if
Maybe there was something going on, for all I know. I'm not gonna pretend I have all the answers, but to go and ban someone for that, he's definitely a hypocrite at the very least.
Well, if I see him down at CPAC, and we're gonna try and do a remote broadcast here, which would be really cool, I'll ask him. I'll be like, "Hey, why'd you block us for that? Why'd you ban me, bro?"
Yeah, definitely. I'd add that, like, use as a badge of honor that you've been blocked by this guy, blocked by a fraud.
Yeah.
Someone who seems to be a fraud, someone who claims to, be against all this, like, what he considered degenerate activity, but he actually, goes on date, whatever you want to call it, and refuses to answer questions about. Like, come on, dude, you should, like, even if it was a troll, you should at least go and like say something along the lines like, "Hey, this was a troll, like, haha, you got me," or something. Don't just like ban people. That's something that the left likes to do, is just like blacklist people.
Yeah, and that's what'll be interesting to see at CPAC. Is I'm wondering like how much of the attendance at CPAC is going to be the older establishment conservatives versus the newer pro-Trump conservatives. I hope it's more of the new Trumpian right, but we'll see, and we'll see how this America First PAC happens, this AF PAC, and maybe some action will go down. We'll see, but I'm pretty kind of excited for once about CPAC. Normally I don't, because it's kind of just a bunch of old boomers, talking about Ronald Reagan this, Ronald Reagan that. It's like, guys, come on, that was like these. Fine, but that was like 20, 30 years ago. Like, let's update ourselves on what's going on. So I think it'll be interesting, and the Night for Freedom will be interesting. So we'll see. We'll see what people think of our new organization, and we'll definitely report in from that. If we can report live, that'd be really cool. Doing a live stream.
What happened to Mitt Romney from CPAC?
Yeah, please. I heard people really going after him. I've always hated Mitt Romney. Like, the guy is terrible. I mean, in 2012 was the only time I was like, yeah, let's vote for me. He's better than Obama. And since then, he's just been a total cuck with the C, and a fraud, and a fake conservative, and a total just backstabber to Trump. And he's everything wrong with the party right there. What happened recently? Can you give me a TLDR?
Yeah, he got kicked out of CPAC. Like, his invitation was rescinded.
Yeah,
I was actually surprised, because when I went down to CPAC, like, they would have ate him up. They would have loved him. I don't think he went down when I was there. Maybe he did. I don't like useless people, but yeah, he actually got his invitation removed by a tweet.
Wow. Yeah, I'm seeing those headlines right now. Base CPAC, man, what's going on? Is this a sea change? I didn't expect that. I mean, they disinvited Milo, which was total crap, and I think was ridiculous. But I don't mind this one.
Yeah, no, when I went there, like, like they were talking about like Trump was supposed to go down the year I went, but like, I don't know, you could see the people in there. It was like mostly your sort of college Republicans, sort of establishment people, but like, now it seems like maybe the tides have turned. Maybe those people have gotten out of power. Maybe they, just shut up about.
Well, didn't he vote for more witnesses? I think because that's what people were initially angry about, for him voting for more witnesses in the impeachment. I think that's what did him in.
Yeah, that was what caused it.
Wow.
Like, what was all that about? So didn't they already have like 17 witnesses or something?
Yeah, they already had so many witnesses. And look, we all know that the impeachment trial was just, it was a total scam to begin with. It was another witch hunt that was just trying to take down Trump through some distraction to cover up his accomplishments and help the Democrats, or they think help them in 2020. But this is why I get promised the Republicans. God, you guys don't know how to unify, except during 2016, even though there were a lot of defectors and cucks and establishment people, there was probably the most unified, other than Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh was the most unified I'd ever seen. The GOP, the right, the Republican Party, whatever you want to call this group. I had never seen the right more unified than during Kavanaugh. It was beautiful. And guess what happened? We won. We got what we wanted. We stopped them and we won. But in 2016, you had the Trump, revolution, which pissed some people off, but it pissed the right people off, the people that we don't need. The John McCains, the Mitt Romneys, the Ben Shapiros, the Glenn Becks. You pissed them off, but some of them even came over, like Glenn Beck, saw the light eventually, and that's good. I'll take it. But, Mitt Romney certainly didn't see the light, and he's just been an annoyance, a thorn in the side. So I hope they primary him. They might. I mean, this is a big mistake for him to call for more witnesses. I mean, he might be gone after this, and if he is, that would be beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the only reason I think he's winning in Utah is because he's Mormon.
Yeah, that is the only reason.
Like, if that's like the only state where you could really get someone like him.
Yeah.
And say what you want, I'm not really a big fan of that sort of faith. It's just a strange religion. Like, I don't know.
Well, we got a caller.
They're conservative by and large, so I'll give them that. But like, they got some really strange sort of habits. But like, they don't even allow you to drink coffee over there.
All right, so we're joined by a caller right here. Caller, what's your question for us?
Bernie Sanders thing, and what your thoughts on that was.
The thoughts on the Bernie Sanders and like semi-endorsement from Joe Rogan, I'd say I think it's very telling that the left is, as kind of like we were talking about with the trad right, these Fuentes types having these purity tests. The left did the same thing with Joe Rogan. They held him to this insane level, this insane purity test where now, because Joe Rogan is not a far lefty. He's kind of a libertarian-esque left-winger.
More of a centrist, yeah.
Yeah, he's more of a centrist. So when he doesn't, come up to their caliber, they're going to cast him aside. And I think also what's interesting is how he's aligned himself with Bernie Sanders, who's against the left-wing establishment. So you're seeing how, again, that infighting in the left, like escalating. And they know Joe Rogan's very influential. He's got the biggest podcast in the world. So when you see that somebody of that caliber just give a semi-endorsement, they're scared because they're afraid Bernie's going to gain some traction and could overcome the rigging that the DNC has put in place. I mean, do you think the DNC will stop Bernie still despite all these factors?
I think they definitely want to.
Yeah, me too. I think they're going to probably in the end they're going to succeed in stopping him like last time. But I think Joe Rogan though he's always had an interesting place, and I think he always has to play things a little more recently. He's playing things somewhat a little safer, but at the same time, I think he's, they're looking for a way to take him out, I think. I think a lot of people know his influence, and they're looking for a way to take him out. And they kind of tried with this, but I think it's just going to embolden him and Bernie supporters more.
Yes, I personally am voting for Bernie Sanders because Joe Rogan endorsed him.
Yeah, something else?
I'm not a big Bernie fan, but I feel like he believe, like, I don't know, like he just seems like he's of all the leftists out there, other than like maybe Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think he's the same sort of swamp creature. I think he's dead wrong on a lot of things, but compared to Hillary or Biden or Bloomberg, I think he wouldn't be quite as bad as some of the other ones. But I don't know. They've been treating him so bad. Like, honestly, I don't even know why he sticks around. Because, like, did you see what's going on with the endorsements? Like, what's going on with those super delegates? Again, with like Bloomberg and stuff. They're really trying to rig it.
Yeah. I've been looking at that a little bit too, and it's really interesting. Oh, I think our caller left us. That's what that Bing was. But yeah, they're definitely trying to rig it against Bernie again, and I think Bloomberg is going to be a spoiler candidate, but I don't know whose votes he's going to spoil or split. Jacob Wohl was talking about that earlier, so interesting how that plays out. I think it would only help Biden maybe, but I don't know. Or maybe, yeah, I think, yeah. I don't know.
It's going to divide the party. That's what's going to happen. And, that's why I hope that they, like, rig it against Bernie again, because it will really upset people.
Yeah.
Like completely. Because, it is messed up what they did to him. I mean, I don't really care if they did or didn't do it because I'm not a Democrat. But, like, if I was a Democrat, I would be, furious. Because that, he rightfully should have gotten the nomination. I think. I don't know how it all
I don't
went
think
down.
he
like, Hillary was a
technically.
terrible candidate.
Well, yeah, she was terrible, but I think in the end of it, I don't think Bernie. He didn't have more votes than Hillary, and I don't think he would have. I mean, it's hard to say because there were certain states where they had super delegates where Hillary basically got more delegates than Bernie, even though he got more votes in those states, which is total crap. And he may have gotten some more momentum if he'd won some of those states. I don't know, but he's definitely representing a half of the party and Hillary's the other half. So you have a definite split in the party. And I'm afraid the right's going to have a period of that too with this trad movement gaining traction. But I think like Jacob said earlier, which is that, it's probably not going to become mainstream. It's probably, like things like the anti-Israel stuff. I don't think that's going to ever, become a big thing in the party. I think the right's always going to remain pro-Israel. So
I think that the trad sort of movements mostly relegate on the Israel thing. I think that's a whole nother sort of issue over there.
It is, but that's what a lot of these people believe. Like these people are all kind of in the same category. These trad people they all watch Fuentes and they all believe in the anti-Israel stuff. So it's the same fraction of people. And look, there's also a lot of people on the right that don't like Fuentes that have issues with Israel or anti-Israel. So I do agree with you to some extent on that, but I think these are all coming from different places, and it's I don't know what the future of the right holds, but it could swing too far. I'm afraid of that. I don't think that would be good in the end.
I don't know. Like Israel's a very very touchy subject. Like, let's be real over here. Like
it is.
There's a lot of pluses and minuses, like a lot of reasons why people like Israel, a lot of reasons why people don't like Israel, and I just don't honestly don't know why it's such a big sort of issue right now.
Well, that's I think the reason. Before we wrap up, I'll say this real quick, but I think the main thing that this comes from is the fact that a lot of the big issues have already been taken care of, like the economy, foreign policy, for the most part, and then this Israel thing, like it's been pretty much taken care of. Like a lot of the big issues are off the table, even immigration. I know these people on the travel are going to say Trump isn't going hard enough, but that's kind of where that's coming from because he's done quite a few things that are helpful in immigration.
Like he did start the wall. I'll give him that.
He is starting it.
It's been built in a few places, but I feel that immigration, and I think most of the problems with that, it kind of goes down to cuckold Republicans and just Democrats doing whatever in their power is to go and like hold up in the process. It hasn't.
That's what they did, and that's why you had to do declare national emergency, and that's why it's been delayed a bit because of that. So the wall is going to get built. It's going to take longer. I know, and he's been deporting a lot of illegals and rounding up some MS-13. There's been the ICE raids, and the Supreme Court just upheld something about, I think, green cards or H-1B. I'm sorry, I forget the details, but there are victories happening. It's slow and incremental. Like how our government works. But a lot of big issues like are getting off the table, so other issues rise to the top, and that's why you're seeing this stuff come up. Because like Israel, for me though, still is a low priority. To me, it's at the near the bottom. I don't care a lot about. So, but these people do, and like Jacob said, I think some of it does come from some Jew hatred, and some of it is from the sort of well, we figured out these issues. Now what's next? So that's the current state of the right.
Well, like why is America the one that has to figure out Israel's problems?
Yeah, I know. I think it's, well, we've become such a strong ally with them for various reasons, and we could go into why that is, but unfortunately we're running out of time today, so
yeah.
I'm going to roll out with the Rolling Stones' Give Me Shelter in honor of Brexit. Got to play from a British group and a somewhat appropriate song, I guess. I don't know. I was trying to find something appropriate, but, happy Brexit Day for all those who love the 11 p.m. ringing in of the new independent Britain. And I'm sorry for all those who are crying, but as you can tell, some of us here are pro-Brexit. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more real news.